This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wait For It podcast. I am your co-host Phil Barrera, aka Phil the Filipino.
And I'm your other co-host, Mr. Eric Almighty. And on this edition of the Game Room Where It Happens, we're going to be talking about a very current game. Some would say the front runner for Game of the Year in the year of 2025. Our dear Lord Silksong. Just going to ignore that. Clair Obscur, front runner, Game of the Year. People have been loving it. And we are excited to get into a game, Phil, that I never thought we were ever going to play.
Yeah, for Clair Obscur, this is actually a game that came on my radar last year strictly because of how gorgeous it looked. It looked very different. Don't have a lot of experience in the turn-based world, but this was something I was like, yeah, we're going to have to try this out, especially with it coming to Game Pass. Being very accessible even if you don't have Game Pass. So we're going to break all of that down here tonight. And at the request, very recent request of one of our newest Weight Watchers, Botter from the Short Box podcast, who literally last week when we were recording with him, he was like, hey, I got a bone to pick with you guys. Where's the Clair Obscur episode? Well, here you go, Botter. Here it is. Signed, sealed, delivered, all for you. And actually, everybody that's here. So thank you so much for joining us. If you need a little refresher on where to find everything Wait For It podcast related, stick around to the very end. We'll let you know where you can find all of that. But yeah, Eric, let's get into Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It is a stylish, story-driven RPG. Every year, a mysterious entity known as the Paintress awakens to erase an entire year of humanity's history, wiping people and places from existence. You lead a desperate expedition on a journey to defeat her before she awakens again, combining turn-based strategy with real-time action combat in a visually stunning fight to save the last remnants of civilization. So, yeah, Eric, like I mentioned, this game came into my view last year, and I think it was right around the time we were recording, like, the mid-season fantasy draft for Friendly Neighborhood Gamers at the time, and I was like, what is this? Again, as far as graphically, it just looks absolutely stunning. Gameplay very unique, and from a studio in a developer, in Sandfall Interactive, that no one really knew about. And we are very much in this age, especially over the last 5-10 years, where we're seeing developers come out of nowhere, put out these games that are not technically AAA titles, but have AAA delivery in terms of their launch, in terms of their gameplay, in terms of everything that comes after. And it's just been really, really great to see, especially with us entering the PC gaming world. So, Eric, what has been your history with turn-based RPGs? Did you have any before Clair Obscur, or what was that like in terms of, your gaming backlog and your gaming history?
No. The answer is no.
Yeah.
The only more recent experience I've had is Baldur's Gate 3, which is a game I really am excited to get back into now that I have my PC. It's something I've been pushing off since I got my PC at the tail end of last year. Outside of that, especially during the console years that we are notorious for a lot of our adulthood, it is something that I have not exactly explored very much, but I also don't think it was very, accessible. Like, you mentioned Final Fantasy, maybe your Persona, but other than that, pure games that stuck with that, that's their thing, I don't know that there's that many franchises. It seems like we might be taking a turn in that direction, but it is something that I've avoided, not because I don't enjoy it, because I've enjoyed turn-based stuff before, but it's just not a genre of gaming that I ever jumped into, which again is why I think it's so surprising that this was 1, on your radar, 2, that we even played it, and 3, that there was even any enjoyment in the combat, which is some of the most fluid combat that I had the pleasure of enjoying this year.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all that for sure, and just what a grand accomplishment this is. We're going to talk about obviously positives and negatives in this episode, and we both do 3 takeaways. If you're new to the podcast, Eric and I both choose 3 takeaways that we want to discuss when it comes to the game. So let's go ahead and get started. I will go ahead and go first, and mine is, that's cheating a little bit because it is going to be both a positive and kind of a negative. I don't know. You let me know if this is nitpicky or not, but I feel like it probably isn't, because I think we've talked about it before.
And we also need to provide the clarity of where we both are at in our journeys.
Yes,
with Clair
right.
Obscur.
So Eric has beaten the game. He played it all the way through, and I have only gotten a couple hours into Act 2, and we'll talk about why that is in a little bit too. I don't have my save up right here in front of me, but as far as how much time I get into it, but yeah, like I said, got into a couple hours into Act 2. So for us, we certainly want to talk about performances in terms of the voice acting. I mean, obviously there are some big names included here in Clair Obscur, Charlie Cox being the main one that I think a lot of people are going to recognize. Jennifer English, Ben Starr, who has a really, really great performance, even though I haven't fully gotten to see him. Shayla Nix, Andy Serkis, of course. But yeah, really, really great voice cast, and they really portray that emotion in terms of the story that can be a little confusing at times if you're not fully paying attention. There's a lot going on here. They're not shy about throwing you into this world and letting you kind of learn about it as you go. And again, the performances are outstanding, and as far as how they're delivering their lines, but the mouth flaps are off a lot. And again, this is not a AAA title. It's a team of less than 50 people, so they prioritize some things over the other. But as people who you obviously watch a lot of anime. I watch a decent amount of anime. That's something that can take me out of it, and that's why I don't watch a lot of older anime, is because the mouth flaps don't really match. So you let me know, did that take you out of any of those really emotional moments, or am I being nitpicky?
Okay, well, we're starting with shots fired. Huh, fucking Christ.
I said it was a little bit of both.
How is it both?
I said that the performances were really good, but the mouth flaps don't match.
Okay. No, I mean, the mouth flaps, the lip sync is an issue. It is an issue. In fact, I distinctly remember when I was in the first hour of the game before the title happens, and obviously, what occurs. We are going to talk about, I think we're going to talk pretty freely about Act 1 up until that moment, and then we'll put a spoiler tag on there just for those of you that maybe don't want to hear that part. But I will say the beginning of the game, you're introduced to this town, and there's options for dialogue leading up to the pier that you're trying to get to for the first moment of the game to happen, for it to truly start. And Phil, I breezed through that fucking part the second the lip sync wasn't on. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I'm not interested in that. And it didn't work for me all the time. I don't think that it necessarily ruined the performances in any way. So I see what you're saying. Maybe that's the good takeaway, is that verbally they were good performances. It is taken away though a little bit by the bad lip sync, and I still have no anytime I look it up, it's more theorizing why this is, not a real explanation. Maybe the devs have given that, maybe this team has provided that, and I just haven't found it, or it's not easily accessible. I think there should be some type of explanation though, because it is pretty bad.
Yeah, and I did watch a couple of reviews from other content creators, and nobody seemed to really bring it up. So I just wanted to make sure that we did, because I don't think we're crazy. I mean, who knows? Maybe the comment section will go nuts with this. It'll be our second YouTube video to ever pop off. That's how that's going to work. So thank you, algorithm. But yeah, but again, like I said, it still does not take away from the emotional depth of the characters. They're all very well written, at least the ones that I have come across so far, and I'm certainly excited to learn more about them as we go on. But yeah, that is the first. Unfortunately, that is the first thing I wanted to bring up, because there is so much dialogue in this, it's impossible to ignore because it happens immediately. So yeah, that was my first takeaway.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, we're off to a great start. Because I really do feel a little bad about maybe how some of these things, based off of kind of what you're hinting at, and what I've been vocal about with this game, which is that this game, a lot of people jumped to it being a Game of the Year contender. And the reason I took so long with it was because I didn't want to rush through it. And I did take my time with this game, but there are pretty significant issues. So before I get to those, and again, it may sound like there are going to be some nitpicky things, and there are going to be some things maybe I'm in the minority about. We'll see where that kind of ends up. I do want to praise the biggest thing, which I already mentioned earlier in passing, which is the combat. This is not, Phil, a combat that I thought I would vibe with. The turn-based combat here with the characters is a lot of fun. Getting to learn how to play as those characters. If I was to have my one caveat to everything I'm saying right now, I hate that it's limited to 3. I understand it would be a little too excessive to increase that to 4 or 5, but I really felt like I missed out on playing as certain characters that I would have liked to learn a little bit more. And the reason for that is because you have a team of 4 to 5 people, I believe at max, and you essentially play 3 per turn. And if those 3 die, then you have like the last expedition, the last like resort, and it's the remaining 1 to 2 players that jump in. That didn't always work for me, but when you do have your core, you have your favorite characters, which Phil, I'd love to know your rotation of characters as well. It is a ton of fun getting to learn them, getting to rebuild their skill tree, sometimes making complete course corrections. All of that is a great time, especially when you learn about the Luminas and the Pictos as well.
Yeah, so as we already mentioned, this is really a departure from a lot of the gameplay that we have experienced really just in our gaming history, and it was a lot of fun to learn. And there is really no learning curve. Like, they throw you into it right away and kind of expect you to figure out how things go as you play the game. And I think that is I feel like that's a huge positive. It could be an immediate detriment and a turnoff for other people. As determined as I was to figure this out and get better, I just wasn't. And the big thing for me, I'm so bad at parrying. I'm so bad at parrying and dodging. It's just not my thing across all of gaming. The only thing I really feel like recently that I got even like okay at was Ghost of Tsushima, but everything else I just have not done. And then of course Batman, because I don't want to say it's easy to do in Batman, but like, you know, and Spider-Man, you know, those types of things. But I just couldn't figure this out. So to get through the game, because I wanted to experience the story, I did lower the difficulty down to story mode. But it is still a lot of fun, and you still do run into those more challenging enemies that can be a lot of fun. I wish there was some sort of in between the standard difficulty and then the story mode. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Who knows? Maybe that's something they add in the future. But yeah, as far as the characters, Eric, early on, the first ones that you run into, at least in the first act, of course, there's Gustav, there's Lune, Mael, and I ran mostly, once I got Sael, I switched out Mael for the most part in the latter half.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I could not figure out
Gustav?
the stance. Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah,
oh, no, buddy.
Yeah. I couldn't figure out the stances. I think it's because her, like, quote-unquote, like, the loadout, I just didn't have the right loadout to get her into the correct stances, and I figured that out a little bit too late. So like upon replay, I would definitely swap out Gustav. But yeah, the stances, because I could not get her into the ones that I needed the most. That's why I swapped her out.
Yeah, so Luna was my favorite, probably like consistently across the board.
Yeah, she's great.
I did start to really enjoy Mael as the game progresses, and you know, we'll talk about that, but this game is really her game. Like from a story perspective, a lot is built around her. So that was really prevalent. Sael is one that I didn't get to spend as much time with, because once you get to Act 2 and you're introduced to the character Monoko, he kind of came in a rotation. But yeah, Gustav, I wanted to get off of him so fucking fast, and we'll talk about the other character we're kind of quietly not discussing when we kind of give that very blanket spoiler warning. But yeah, those characters I did not want to play immediately. And whenever I was forced to play them, I was not having a great time.
Yeah, so it's certainly about figuring out what that balance is. And again, because it's like my main point of reference when it comes to turn-based, it is obviously very similar to like figuring out the right team that you have in Pokemon. I think that 3 works just fine. It's also the more traditional layout when it comes to turn-based games. So like I'm fairly certain in Final Fantasy it's also 3 people, but also in Final Fantasy you have like the summoning as well, so that's a whole different thing. But yeah, as far as the characters, once again, I thought they were all very, very interesting, fleshed out very well. The only thing I don't really know too much about is Sael. But yeah, Lune is also probably my favorite out of all of them. But yeah, again, like kind of my first take. Very, very good characters and very interesting for sure.
Yeah, what did you think about the Pictos and the Luminas? Like, the whole concept of those. Like, it was pretty, again, this game doesn't really explain a lot to you, and even when it does, a paragraph doesn't exactly explain everything you need to know. And I'm curious, like, how much you dived into it to really understand it, or did you utilize it, or are you just learning now that you could essentially have this ability where you max out these things with each individual person and then everyone can reap the benefit? Like, again, what was your experience?
I kind of learned that a little bit too late. I won't say too late, but like towards a little bit closer towards this recording. So now having that information, I do plan on upping the difficulty back up to, now that I have the character, now I'm using the characters. I believe I'm using them correctly, but I did see those once I started doing the upgrades and, like, going to camp and utilizing all that. It's not just as simple as, oh, here, use your skill points and upgrade your weapon and do all this. So, like, figuring that out a little bit later will certainly be helpful as I continue to play the game. But yeah, again, it really does just throw you in there. I mean, I used to watch my cousin play Final Fantasy, and I'm pretty sure there was at least a ramp-up period in Final Fantasy. So I was like, if I ever wanted to play this game, I could. This one, again, like, the learning curve is so steep that I'm just really happy that it has had all of its success. But I have asked, like, I don't want to say casual gamers, but, like, I was curious if this game had come across, like, people that aren't always like have their pulse on what's going on in gaming. So I asked, like, a coworker who is a big PC gamer if he had played this game, and he said no, and didn't even seem like it was on his radar. So I'm kind of interested, like, how much outside of people that were really had their finger on the pulse of where gaming was and, like, what this release was, like, how many people played this,
It'll be an interesting conversation, to say the least, because I feel like most people that are in the gaming space at the very least heard of this game. It's very much like, again, Silksong, everybody knows that because everybody talks about it, but Hollow Knight as a series is something that most gamers know, even if they're not into, like, Metroidvanias. A game that came out this year talking about another group of developers, small indie games, from Team Cherry to Hollow Knight to Landfall and Aggro Crab with Peak, and bringing that game out and the story behind that game. Like, most people in the gaming space, even if their friend slop is not, that genre is not for them.
I hate that so much.
I get it.
Listen, lonely gamer.
I gave very sassy air quotes for that because it's fucking stupid.
Looks like friend slop. If I pay $5 for this game and me and my friends play it for 2 hours and have a good time, that's a good $5 spent.
Good $5 spent, yeah. So again, I wouldn't agree with the term, but everybody knows about Peak because it's really made the rounds. I think Clair Obscur sits somewhere in that same vein this year in particular. So I think it does depend on the type of gamer that you're dealing with.
Sure.
Like, if you've got somebody who's just exclusively on consoles, maybe not. But I think most people that have a PC especially know about all of these games that I've mentioned. And Clair Obscur, falls in that definition as well.
I will say our buddy Jay, my co-host over at Touchdown Jaguars, has been playing the hell out of this, and he's also, like, really good at games like this. He's a fighting game guy too, so, like, parrying, dodging, that's like it's like second nature to him. So he's been doing really, really well in this game. I think he's well into Act 3. So, but yeah, Eric, what is your second takeaway here for Clair Obscur?
Yeah, so when it comes to Clair Obscur, I'm thinking we kind of have to pull the rug out from under the episode here, which is, we've told you a little bit about the game, some of the things we like, some of the things we don't like, but now we got to rip the Band-Aid off and talk about the end of Act 1. So that is going to be my second takeaway, because I do believe... Get out.
Pretty intense spoiler here. So yeah, go ahead.
So Gustav dies. I didn't love it. Okay. I did not really care for the character. I did not care for the Godfather.
Gustav insists upon himself. What does that even mean, Eric?
I just don't think we spent enough time with him, and it was kind of already starting to point towards Mael being a pretty big part of the game. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to character work here with this particular game. Again, I really love the combat. When it comes to character work, I think this game thinks we're going to give it more leniency in those areas when I was expecting a little bit more of a deep dive into a lot of these characters. And for most of them, we don't really get that. So for a character like Gustav, who is propped up to be this main character, and then you basically replace him with a discount version in Verso, that's my opinion. I know that's going to probably piss people off, but I did not enjoy Verso at all in Act 2 or 3. Did not enjoy Verso at all. And it's because he has similar move sets. He's also kind of equally boring, honestly, even though he's a very crucial part to the game. It just didn't work for me, Phil. And I think for me, how you react to the end of Act 1 is an important takeaway, because that to me determines, is this an investment of time you want to keep making? Are you enjoying the game? I continued to play it because the combat is so stellar. And I like the world and the opponents and the boss fights and all that shit's cool. But yeah, story-wise, character development-wise, definitely some of the weakest areas here. And we won't dive into too many spoilers beyond Act 1, but I will tell you I did not love that theme of like, it wasn't really fleshed out enough for some of the themes they were hitting. That continued into Act 2 and through Act 3.
Do you think it would have impacted you differently if we had spent at least more time with them in Act 2? Because from what I understand, Act 2 is pretty long, isn't it?
Act 2 is the longest? So fucking long.
Yeah, because I was looking through like a gameplay, and the video was like 11 hours long.
Yeah, no,
and I was like, oh shit. So,
and that's just the story. Like, there was a point in Act 2 where I was like, I'm gonna stop doing side stuff, and I'm just gonna focus on the story. It took forever. Act 3 is super short in comparison to the first two. So yeah, it's I don't know that you would have wanted to do an action like that late in the game. In the middle
of an act. Yeah.
Or in the middle of an act. Maybe make Act 1 longer and Act 2 shorter. I don't really know what the solution was there, but I know that I just didn't feel enough of a connection for Daredevil voiced Robert Pattinson that it just didn't work for me.
I would say it certainly affected me more than it did you, because I did buy into this relationship between Gustav and Maëlle, this brother-sister connection that they had. Not so much because of like the love interest in the beginning. Again, we didn't really spend enough time with that for me to really care, but it was certainly shocking. I think with the one of the main themes of the game being grief, I think it does make sense for the game to force the player to also sit in that grief as well. It is a very shocking, and it does happen right away. And not only does it happen right away, they also make you sit in it and still play as him while you know that he is dying. So I think it impacted me a little bit. Well, I know it impacted me more. Was it like one of the most shocking gaming deaths of all time? No, certainly not. But I have seen people compare it to the death of Aerith in Final Fantasy VII, which is like famously one of the most famous gaming deaths of all time. So I don't know how many people hold that opinion, but yeah, I can tell you right now, I do agree with you early on. I haven't spent much time with him. I am not very interested in Verso. Like you said, it just seems like we got one relatively handsome, medium-haired guy swapped out for another one. So like his inclusion, he was like, I'm gonna come with you, and we're like, oh, okay, all right. I guess he's with us now.
That's honestly how it goes. And there's a lot behind his story and all of that we're not going to get into on this episode because Phil hasn't gotten that far. But that's maybe I'll open it up, Phil, just to kind of make sure that we're on the same page. Like, where do you, and I don't know if this is part of any of your takeaways, but like, where do you sit going into Act 2? You obviously kept playing a little bit. You've talked about maybe making some changes with what you know now. Is this a game that you're going to continue to play? Because again, I think for me, Act 1 is a huge deciding factor. And ultimately, for me, the combat was so enjoyable that I wanted to stick through it. But if it was purely a story or character-driven decision, I would have dropped the game. And that's about 11 hours in, which is about our threshold. We could put in about 8 to 10 hours into a game before it's really starting to get miserable. So where are you at, you know, in your stopping point as far as this game?
Yeah, I will certainly continue to play the game because I'm very interested to see how this ends. I also want to support a developer who pulled off something incredibly amazing. I think I would have, actually, I know I would have gotten through this a lot faster if I was playing this on PlayStation. One thing that I've learned, and where we have kind of separated in our PC gaming journeys, is you have been able to sit at your desk and sit at your monitors and play through a story-driven game. Where for me, I have to be, I like have a certain cadence when I play games, and it's being comfortable and putting my feet up and sitting there with a controller in front of a large TV. And I'm what I'm learning is I've learned this with Cyberpunk. I learned this as I was playing through like Sleeping Dogs and Far Cry. Is I can only sit here so long for a story-driven game before I get uncomfortable. It's not that this chair is uncomfortable. I can just only sit at it for so long. And a lot of physical reasons, or a lot of like health stuff goes into that too. But I can only sit here so long and play a story-driven game. If I'd been playing through this on PlayStation, I probably would have gotten through it a lot faster. So that's one thing I'm learning, because I went back to Cyberpunk just on the PlayStation, and I've gotten way farther than I have on the PC. So I've learned that my PC is a vessel for me, obviously, for podcasting and voice acting and all that stuff. But as far as gaming, it is a simulator thing that I really love, being able to sit here and I can spend hours on Jurassic World Evolution 3. I won't ever be uncomfortable playing Jurassic World Evolution 3. October 21st, don't call me.
It doesn't make any sense. None of what you're saying makes sense when you're telling me you're going to sit here. You're going to sit here for 5 hours.
Don't call me, bro. Don't. I will be unreachable for the remainder of the
Yeah, and at your fucking desk. That's what I'm saying. You just like undid that whole fucking soliloquy you just fucking spilled out. You ruined it.
I'll sit here and do it, but
that's okay. All right. Yeah.
But to your original question, I have every intention of playing all the way through this, because I would like to speak to you about the ending and see if I come to some of the same conclusions. But as far as Verso goes, like, yeah, Clair Obscur narration, expedition narration. That seems what he's there for.
Yeah,
I was in Expedition 0. Sweet. Want to expand on that a little bit?
He's just going to piss you off more.
I'm immortal. What? What do you mean?
So,
really quick, I want to mention what we talked about before we got started. Charlie Cox was making rounds because he was doing, Daredevil press. It was very interesting because it was way before I got to the death of Gustav, and he was talking about how he recorded all of his lines in one day, and you're like, wow. I think this is like a 40-hour game. That's crazy. And I've never put it together.
What a natural.
Wow, he's good. That guy's good. So, yeah. It's funny putting that together after it happened, because you're like, oh.
and I guess that is, I think you're telling us that you did avoid that spoiler. Like,
I did, yeah.
That's crazy.
I avoided it the whole time, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is the spoiler. There are other things that could get spoiled, but what I've learned with this game, that is the spoiler. You either know it or you don't. And sure. I think it's a pretty important one in consideration of everything. But Phil, what is your second takeaway for this game?
Yeah, my second takeaway is, I'll just revert to a positive when it comes to just kind of like the art direction, world building, and music. We'll put all that all into one. The music. Remember the first time you heard the Halo music, like loading up your Xbox for the first time, and that loads up? It's very similar for Clair Obscur. I mean, one of the songs is my ringtone. I went out of my way to make a ringtone in 2025 because I just really love hearing hearing the music. Yeah, you've never noticed that? It's been that for months.
No.
It's been Clair Obscur, yeah. Well, a lot of times my phone's on silent because who wants to hear a ringtone? But when I do hear a ringtone, I hear Clair Obscur. So again, it's one of the first things that stood out was the art style. It's absolutely beautiful, especially weaving in not only a beautiful world, but it's just surrounded by death, and it still pulls off like this sense of awe, and like I don't ever want to not explore it. And there's a conversation to be had about whether or not some of that exploration is actually worth it. A lot of times it really isn't. But in terms of character design and also the enemy design, like, there's no lack of, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, because you've obviously beaten the game, but it doesn't seem like there's any lack of enemy variety. So that is also very, very good. But yeah, art direction, world building, I thought was very, very intoxicating. And again, it's one of the main reasons that it caught my eye in the first place.
No, I mean, that's all good to like just pack into one, because like we could talk individually about them. in a lot of positive light, but I feel like most people that have heard about this game know a lot of those, so that was a perfect way to kind of encompass it for those of you that don't, because it is a game that I think when it came out had a lot of buzz around it, and you know, until you get to the story and all of that, like that's kind of what's happening with Silksong now. Again, it's kind of the topic of the month of September, which is why it keeps coming up. But like most people are talking about that game and the way Clair Obscur was getting that hype, which is like the game looks beautiful, the combat feels like this, the difficulty feels like this, these are the things I like, these are the things I don't like, where you're not really focusing so much on the story and the character driven stuff that eventually you have to make a decision on how you feel and you can kind of judge. So when that game first came out and a lot of people heard about it, they were hearing fantastic music, fantastic world building, all of the above, and again, great combat to boot. So I think that's a good one. And Phil, we have our last ones coming up. I'm trying to decide, do I continue to talk shit or do
I want to ask you a
something
question.
positive?
Maybe this will set you up as far as going from, I don't know if this is a negative, but some people didn't like how the lack of a mini map. Did you care at all?
No, not as much. I think what bothered me more, and this will be my third takeaway, is that this game felt like it was trying to do a little bit too much. And what I mean by that, and I think you've seen some of this already, this game will have times where like, so again, you're walking around, you know, you're floating around if you're Luna, because I don't know why you pick any other character to walk around with. Again, it's just
why would
boring.
you run when you could float?
When you can float, it's kind of stupid. So you're kind of floating around, you're walking around, and you're, you know, encountering enemies, and all of that's fine. If that was the game mechanic, if that was kind of the game's thing, that would be fine. But it's not. Because then there are areas you have to like Assassin's Creed wall climb, but it's not very intuitive. It's not very like polished. It's just kind of there. There are platforming sections that you can do that are optional. Why? It's also it's not like a clean platformer. It's like a chained together platformer. Like it almost is like it's supposed to feel wonky because that's not what the game is built for. So they do that. Then the open world map. It's not the worst thing, but it's like this game felt like it could have just kind of stayed in its zone a little bit more instead of introducing all these little elements that aren't as polished or, again, are just a whole different way to do something in the game. Maybe this is a JRPG thing. Again, this game is heavily inspired by a lot of those, so I can't speak to that, but I can just say that it wasn't a huge negative in the way the character-driven and the story stuff didn't really work for me, but it was a nitpick that ultimately, you know, when I look back at this game, I would never replay this game because of some of those little things. Like, I just didn't enjoy those little moments to moments.
We've already said it. It is not the most... You gotta want it. If you want to get in this game, you gotta want it. There's no dipping your toe into the waters of Clair Obscur. Like, you figure out pretty early whether or not you're in or out. I did find it like a tad bit annoying having to pull up like the whole world map. There were times that I definitely got lost. I had to go to camp. Like, what's my objective again? What am I doing here? So there were definitely points like that. But yeah, and I think, yes, they probably tried a little bit more than they should have. Maybe they could have condensed it a little bit, but also if they didn't take the big shot, we probably wouldn't be discussing it. It probably wouldn't be a game of the year contender. So it'd be interesting to see if they, either on their second attempt, whether it be a sequel, whether it be another game, because I think if you talk about anybody that has a lot of momentum, it's definitely these developers. So I think it's certainly not the last time, and I hope it's not the last time that we hear from them. So maybe they rein it in a little bit and focus on the things they did really well while still innovating, because that's a big part of this, is there's a lot of innovation here. So yeah, I think I've seen some similar things in terms of where there are those rooms for improvement is like, it's just a little, there is a little bit too much going on for some people to continue playing the game. So
one thing I was going to say was like, it just came to my mind was there's also like a relationship building aspect. Did you know that? Did you know
like a romance?
like
you can romance characters?
Not necessarily a romance, but like there's literally when you talk to characters for a certain amount of time, you will get a prompt on the screen that says relationship.
I learned that like 2 days ago when I was Verso talking to who's the to SK.
Oh, to SK.
Yeah. And it said like friendship or relationship goes up. I was like, what?
So again, it's like just jarring stuff where like, I don't know. I kind of do think that if they took some of those things out, it would have made the game better and still be a game of the year contender. Some of them just felt so unnecessary. Like there were some bold swings. So I guess I'll take the bad with the good in this scenario. But yeah, it just like, again, it was those little nitpicky things where it's like, well, why is that? You know, if I wanted to even dive deeper into this game is like, has like Souls-like elements almost as well.
Sure.
That I think every game feels like it has to give you. And that's probably why you also struggled very much with like some of the stuff like the parrying, like the dodging. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of you. You feel like you walk
getting
out
your
of...
shit kicked in for half an hour is demoralizing, which is why I stepped away for a while.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: as someone who's beaten the game, is there a better character in the game than Francois?
Probably not.
Okay. At least I've seen that.
Again, Minoko's probably my favorite, but yeah, no, I mean it's like 1A 1B situation, pretty much there.
I get that. Well, my last one, since we've kind of like covered everything, I'll like pivot a little bit into kind of a general conversation because we are going to have this talk in terms of one, where does it sit in terms of game of the year? I think obviously Silksong is in the pole position. And it's a really good place for gaming to be too, is because they are both small developers. So I think that would just continue to kick the industry in the ass and be like, hey, Rockstar, Ubisoft, stop fucking around. Like, do the right thing. So I think that's a good place for it to be. And then like another game, you know, I'm trying to think of some other games that might be nominated, but like it's good to have those two as far as front runners go. So like, where do we think this is going to sit? Because if I had to guess, if it's not Silksong, then it's going to be Donkey Kong, just because Nintendo wins, LOL. That is where I would do it. I do see some people mentioning, what was it called? Split Fiction. After having beat that game, it was a lot of fun. It is not a Game of the Year contender. It is not in the same stratosphere as their last game, which is escaping my mind. Right? It Takes Two.
Which won Game of the Year.
Which won Game of the Year. So it's again, it's a lot of fun. Co-op couch gamers, definitely a recommendation. But because they came off It Takes Two, it's not the same. But I would say those three are probably the front runners. And then to combine that, what, if any, interest do you have in there being, because they're making it a live action Clair Obscur, because it's happening, and I don't think I like it. So those are my last. We'll start there.
Yeah, so I'll give you both of those. So for Game of the Year, Death Stranding 2 is also in the conversation.
Sure.
So that is definitely in the conversation.
Would you ever play that?
No.
Okay, good.
No, walking simulator with baby is what
Amazon.
I hear. Yeah, Amazon delivery driver. That seems like more of your jam. I'm actually shocked you won't play it.
No, man. I watched our buddy Josh play the first one, like when he had it on the PlayStation. He just, shared screen. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I've watched the ending because like that's something I do for games I know I'll never play. So
yeah,
I've never been a Kojima. That's just I've never really been interested. But which is interesting because I really want to play Snake Eater. But anyway,
not for you.
I'm not gonna play any Death Stranding game ever.
That's fair.
What about Blueprints?
Blueprints for Game of the Year is not happening. Like, it's not even gonna get the nomination. It definitely will probably win some awards. I think the luster from that game has definitely fallen off a lot. It definitely made a mark when it came out, but it also came out like very close to when Clair Obscur came out. And I think that's gonna have something to do with this, Phil, because like Ghost of Yotai is coming out, and we might.
Oh yeah.
We might be getting a Metroid Prime 4 drop just randomly at some point. At least that's the only reason I haven't counterpicked it in our fantasy league that we do with your friendly neighborhood gamers. So there are other games that will probably be in contention where like Blueprints will get kicked out. But yeah, I just like when I look at this list and we talk about some of the games that you've mentioned here as contenders, like maybe Donkey Kong, but even then, I think it's Silksong's to lose. And that's unfortunate for a game like Clair Obscur, which I think at one point was a valid front runner. And the reason I say that is because I don't personally believe after playing it that it is. And it's because of the story, which weirdly enough justifies the live action. Like, Phil, this game has a lot of like lore and a lot of a story it's trying to tell that I think might work for live action. It's the combat, right? It's like the combat's my favorite thing about this game. So I don't know that I would enjoy a live action version, but having experienced the whole story from start to finish, I could see it happening.
Yeah, I guess I'm just so against these live actions, although we have gotten solid ones here pretty recently. I guess it would depend on if it's like Clair Obscur Expedition 50. Okay, I would like to know what happened on some of these other expeditions. I don't want a shot for shot remake. I don't want The Last of Us. I do want Fallout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want. So
I will say, I don't know that it would be too spoilery to say this, but this game does close pretty neatly.
Okay.
I won't say that I enjoy the endings,
Sure.
because there are two, but I would say that this game does kind of tie itself in a nice little bow where I don't think I would see the reason to kind of expand this world more. And I actually literally can't tell you this part because it would be spoilery. I don't know that this would be a live action universe as an example. Like, I don't think we would see like different expeditions, honestly, unless they were going backwards like prequels.
Right. Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, like, I would love to learn a little bit more about some of the previous expeditions. I think that would be interesting. So, well, the most fun game we have here, of course, on the podcast, Eric, that we bring up from time to time is let's fan cast this thing. Obviously, Robert Pattinson is the most popular choice to play Gustav.
Could have gotten him the last time. Like, I love Charlie Cox, but like,
right.
Come on now.
Sadie Sink as Mael.
That's
Natasha,
solid. Red hair girl.
Yeah, Natasha Liu as Lune. I'm sorry, Natasha Liu Bordizzo as Lune. Anya Anya Charlatra as Sael. Fabian Frankel, as Verso. Suki Waterhouse as Sophie. Clancy Brown as Monaco. Is that how you pronounce it? I haven't gotten it.
Monoko, yeah.
Monoko, okay. And then
Clancy Brown,
Andy
really?
Serkis as Renor, because Andy Serkis does voice that character. So
Yeah. I mean, that could work. I don't know if he has the physical presence for that.
As that
but also,
character, yeah.
Also, he also like kind of has like a coat. Like, it's kind of like the bulky coat shoulders. Like, yeah, it could work.
But yeah, I mean, again, will I watch? I mean, it's gonna have to be a hell of a budget to make this thing, because you cannot half-ass any type of special effects, or the monsters can't look shitty. Like, you're gonna have to put time and money into this thing. So hopefully they are committed. But yeah, I see Damson Idris as Lucian here. Let's see who is Isabella Serban for Mael. Palm, I always forget how to pronounce her name. She was Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy. As Lune.
That could work.
Pierce Brosnan as Renoir.
Love me some Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah. Tilda Swinton as the Paintress. Benedict Cumberbatch as Monoko.
No. Although, I mean, yeah, he's got the voice for it, maybe.
Yeah.
Those are all interesting fan castings, but I don't know. I don't know how that would really go.
Congratulations, Pedro Pascal and Sydney Sweeney.
Fuck!
He can't keep getting away with this. Or maybe The Rock, now that he's slim. Did you see... Side note, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. Did you see somebody asking Bryan Danielson about his opinion on The Rock's slimmer figure?
He's got a big-ass head now.
No, he was like, well, maybe he just wants to live longer.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But also true.
But I digress. But yeah, we'll see. We're gonna keep getting these live actions, and with the way that it was received, I wasn't really surprised when they announced it. So, but overall, as you can tell, like from the way that we're talking about it, we certainly, if you're one of those people, one of the few people that sold a ton of copies, if you have for some reason been avoiding this, maybe The turn-based style turns you off, but like give it a shot. Maybe you'll feel completely differently when it comes to us about story beats, and maybe the mouth flaps and that doesn't really bother you. So let us know if we're being nitpicky, because again, I haven't heard too many people talk about it, but it is an experience, I think, because it is on Game Pass, that is worth trying out. And then if it goes on sale during the holiday season, give it a chance, and again, support a developer that pulled off something pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I would agree with everything there. This is a game that you're going to sink at least 30 to 40 hours in, and there's so much that you can still explore. Sure. Yeah, you're going to get your money's worth for sure. So it's a game that I would highly recommend checking out. Again, when it comes to story, character beats, like Phil mentioned, I'm kind of in the minority there with some of those. I think we're kind of in the minority in general. So it's just one of those things where, again, we need to be mindful that we're giving our opinions. We might have felt some type of way, but again, even with my issues, I wanted to play this game to completion, and that should say everything it needs to about Clair Obscur. So let us know if you played it. Did you like it? Are we on point? Do you agree? Are we alone? Those are the questions.
Should we stick to friend slop?
Should we stick to friend slop? Yeah.
Let me ask you this last thing, and then we'll wrap up. Does this have you? I know you mentioned, of course, Baldur's Gate earlier, but do you now have the propensity or the interest to jump into a Persona, like a more modern day, turn-based type of game? Is there any interest there? Because I don't think we're ever going to be the type of gamers that go back and play a Final Fantasy, even with the remasters.
I think that's an interesting question because, first off, answer no, absolutely not. But the reason for that is because those are really established franchises. I think with this one, it was a point of entry into this genre that felt a little bit more accessible. So would I ever play this type of game again? Yeah, I would. This type of combat, this turn-basedness, I really enjoyed a lot of my time with Clair Obscur in that aspect. But yeah, would I go to a established franchise like a Persona or a Final Fantasy? Very unlikely, no, and that's just because of the daunting nature of it.
Yeah, I will say the only one that has interested me lately is Persona. I did look into it, but yeah, because it is one of those franchises where there's so much, that's why we haven't really jumped into Yakuza or Like a Dragon, there's all that as well. So yeah, but again, a game like this being successful is great for the industry, and it helps us, the consumer, and hopefully puts boot to ass when it comes to some of those other big developers that are dragging their feet. So we will see how it goes. But did you enjoy this episode? What did you think of Clair Obscur? Did you try it out because of this episode? What do you think? We would love to hear from you, which means you can keep up with us pretty much everywhere. You can find the Linktree link in the show notes of this, and every single episode you'll find our TikTok, Instagram, our growing Discord community. You can find us on Twitch, where we are streaming all the time. If you watch this on YouTube, make sure you like, share, subscribe. You know the standard drill. If you are listening on any podcast platform, please give us 5 stars. That is one of the best ways you can help support the show. And shout out to those of you who have done so already. But if you find yourself wanting to get some additional perks from the podcast, maybe getting these episodes early and having a hand in the episode and the content that we put out, like our current Weight Watchers are doing for the month of October, Eric will let you know all about that before we get out of here.
Yeah, so what are our Weight Watchers? Well, you've heard them being referenced many times over the podcast, and they are our patrons. So over on Patreon, they're supporting us monthly in exchange for things like behind the scenes and early access to episodes like this one. So shout out to all of our patrons, from Briar to T3 Kato, Vintage Macaroni, Nick Casparo, the author of the Vidalarium series, Corey from The World Is My Burrito, and Botter from the Short Box Podcast. We appreciate your monthly support, and in return, we're also very excited for October, which is Patreon month, where they have selected movies and games for us to check out, things we were late to the party on, some international stuff, and of course, games that we didn't play that we should have. So you got that to look forward to in October. If you want to support us there, you can. If you can't, that's okay. All the stuff that Phil mentioned, all the things that cost you nothing but your time, is much appreciated. But that is the end of our episode, and we must bid you adieu. My name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host, Phil Filipino. And please don't forget, we release new episodes every Wednesday on the podcast, and all you have to do is wait for it.
This is the Wait For It podcast.